Whatever.
We're in.
So how's Q2?
So how's Q2 going?
So how's
Yeah.
Q2?
Things are looking up.
Not very profitable.
Yeah, not very
Not very profitable.
We hit the bottom, maybe, question mark.
Oh, we've
Hopefully.
not hit the bottom. There is further
50%
to fall.
to go, right?
There's no
50% to go.
bottom.
There's always lower. There's always, if you feel like, oh, it's nice, we're at the bottom, that means that there's blood to come. This is what I've learned. Yeah, what was it? The SIA project with David O'Reilly or whatever. And then there was another one that David Cho did. Neither of them have sold out. And like they're famous. So
Yeah.
the whole thing is
There's an interesting
different rules. Yeah.
But it's crazy. The free mints, like Manny's Discord, is like they're always selling out. So I don't know if it's just
They're
like
free.
bad audience. Yeah, a bunch of free mints I think are happening recently.
Yeah, I've been following.
I mean, if you're selling into they're not selling, but if you're launching into a warm audience, that makes sense. Yeah. Versus a commercial audience too.
Yeah.
And I feel like most of that audience is like, NFTs are burning the planet. What are you doing?
Yeah.
They are fighting upstream on that one. Yeah, anyhow. So we're like figuring out, I guess, like some mechanism to like sort of pool resources, I guess. And then like a sort of, I don't know, this structure has occurred to me kind of, I don't know if anybody else is doing this kind of thing. I'm probably, right? Like any kind of group structure has been attempted at some point. But basically the premise that I was working with is we've been doing all of these experiments over the past, however, a couple years, at least John, CJ and Kristen and I, and then Jordan, Tony, you guys lately, with the Rift, we started playing with stuff, Exquisite Land, and then Prompty, Jordan's popping in there. So we've got all of these like sort of properties, and we've been considering like, poking into consulting work and all of these kinds of things. That's all great. But like, what is the structure that kind of work might be coming into? And then like, and is it a company? Is it an agency? Is it who knows, right? There is this longer term vision of things like DAOs, whatever that means, right? So I don't know. We have a group of people that are generally entrepreneurial. We've all sort of started things, been in things. Like my feeling on this is if we combine some amount of the time that we have generally to play with things and focus that time, then it could be sustainable, like profitable, maybe. So profitable for certain if we can sustain it. So what does the structure for that look like? And the way to come up with that structure, like we've done like a basic sketch, and Kristen sent over a sort of a rough outline of that kind of thing. And I guess the smallest version of it is like we have a type of membership agreement that like is maybe associated to time. We all toss in some time that we're like committing to like this endeavor, and then like we figure out some agreement structure that then utilizes that time and figures out how to manage the resource of that, and towards some goal in the short term of sustaining the practice. That's the roughest sketch of the thing. So that's kind of the playground, and I don't know, open for dialogue and comment. First, I guess, does that sound like anything that you guys are interested in? So let's start there.
Well, let me do my waving thing. Does it work on this app? No.
Sick. Okay. So I don't know. Basically from here, we just need to, I don't know, it's details on how that might go, like, or anything you guys have to, I mean,
Yeah, I think what does time pooling look like? Because like the
Yes.
idea is that if we're like each one of us, like I'm like I'll commit 25 hours a week or something, and everyone has their own like I commit X amount a week. Yeah, and then what? I mean, part of it's decision making on like how do we spend our time, and we've got a bunch of projects that we've been working on, and like there's different projects that different people have sort of founded, and then we bring them into the group so we can produce each other's projects, but we need to figure out like how to prioritize them and which ones we work on. And then it also feels like a lot of the projects are related, so there's this sort of constellation of like relationship, again, the relationality, like CJ had a prompty about what does relational mean. So those are some of the questions that I have, like how does all of that come together? How do we do it? Because we've been doing it, but we haven't been structured in how it's just been sort of slapdash, and it doesn't really work very well. It's not sustainable because we're just sort of like, what do we do now? What? We're not consistent. It hasn't been bad, but yeah, if we're going to make money, I think that would be good to be focused.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the key thing that I'm feeling into as well, is like a little bit more focus. It seems like there's a lot of like you said, like projects that are like somewhat related, but we're all working in individual directions in a way rather than working together on them. Which
and
feels
when we
very
work together, when we work together, we could do crazy shit. So like, I think this is why a lot of our projects have sort of been like, I don't know, like strung along. Like we're just like, we'll do this for a little while, and then we're like, I mean, a lot of this, Dave and I being part of this and moving a lot, and John was moving a lot. So like settling down and not having as much distraction, like I think that helps. So if half the group or more than half the group, like the core group of us that's been doing this for a while is not present really, that doesn't work. So that, I think that part has passed, at least for me it has. I'm ready to focus. Like I would like to, because I'm curious what can we do? Like if we can launch cool shit like Exquisite Land, and like we're pulling the Rift out, and like Prompty, like let's get them out into the world properly.
One thing, I don't know, when you guys were talking in Discord yesterday, I did like one thing that popped in my head, kind of this tension between, I don't know if it's tension, whatever, the relationship between research and like having hard deliverables that generate money and stuff. It's like, I don't know, this is more of a question, not an opinion or anything, but it's like, I kind of, one reference model would be like newspapers, like there's editorial and there's business, and they intentionally separate them. So editorial isn't like, don't mess with our, or, you know, don't mess with our, whatever. I mean, that's not really, I don't think it's a similar tension, but it's some kind of way bifurcating, like, so you can have two different incentivized organizations that you know have a safe like relationship. I don't know if that's relevant here. And the other dimension I was going to throw out there as a question, it's like, do we see when I step back and kind of look at Buzzard and like relational stuff, it's like what I got excited is like there's all these like infrastructure that works. Like I was telling John, I'm like, this is magic. I opened a file on my desktop and we're like sharing, like, you know what I mean? I'm not going through some server, like this shit works, whatever. And it's like, right then I immediately started thinking about these just like products and stuff that I want to build. I'm like, oh, this could just, you know, like obviously work underneath. So it's almost like, I feel like there's the layer that like, you know, like Dave, Kristen, you guys are building like this big vision. And it's like, we're incubating these products inside, like Prompty is a good like example of doing that. So I'm wondering, it's like, is that where we start to like apply, like I think like we need structure, but also need to know like where the structure start and stops, or like the incentives and the motivations and stuff. And so it's like, when I was reading what Kristen and CJ were writing yesterday, I'm like, dude, this is the question I'm asking. Like, do we think there's a single model, or do we need to like, kind of like, I don't know. I guess I was just trying to get that.
I think that there is a pipeline from, okay, so you have like research and development, which is like innovation, which, you know, like currently like CJ's playing around in this stuff, right? It is not explicitly a product, right? There's a lot of like material work being done, right? This kind of thing. like the stuff that Tony was doing on the Rift for a while, right? Like you've got this big system or whatever, and then like part of the front ending of that is like bringing it to market, right? Like so there's this process of figuring out the technical gubbins and what is possible, and then maybe packaging that into like an exchangeable or a usable like front end, right? And that front end may be for other developers, it may be for end users, it may be for whatever audience. So the people who are doing research don't necessarily always get along with market, and market people don't necessarily know how to do like so there are these sort of natural like pass offs and like processes. And we talked to Bob Henn, Kristen's uncle, the Gore-Tex dude, about this, and he's talking at scale, obviously, but like they have like an entire system of like choosing projects for innovators to like self regulate on what to work on, because it needs to be within the purview of the business model of the larger organization, but also allowing them enough like wiggle room to play around, right? And to goof up, just to happy accident themselves into something that might be something that can be passed off to I guess a marketing pipeline, right? And so there are like sort of airlocks and these kinds of things that like handle this kind of work. In the short term, like I think we probably don't need that much. We will probably emerge that structure through the process of working on these things. Right. So like, what is the way I look at this is, what is the top level strategy for the group? Like the group needs like to survive. Like, so we're in a mentality that like, all right, what does survival look like? And then what are our methods for surviving, given like our set of inventions and our interests and these kinds of things. There is a focusing there. Like, okay, we're going to like, yeah. So anyways, it through the process of having to work that, I think that the structure will start to emerge. And I don't think that it is a homogenized structure there, because there are tiers of development here. We do need to make sure that like the core of the work remains playful. Like, because if we get into just market exchanges all the time, you're running a consultancy and then people need things done, and then you're just like cranking away on stuff to survive. We've just invented a job for ourselves again, and we could probably get higher margins by going off and doing this on our own somewhere else, right? So like, the core philosophy on how we come together and build things, right? The shipping your org structure, like I think that this is a fundamental part of how we work together, and then what that how outputs in structure, and then how that stuff relates to market, and then how it feeds back. Like, so anyways, it's a big broad, that's how
No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
That's not a very specific answer though.
No, it's great.
I think they're related, is what we're saying. And like, we've had this experience so far, like, because most of the products that we've come up with have been the result of just fucking around, like playing with the technology. So I think it comes back to the question of like spending time. So if we have like time as resource, like we have X amount of time, how do we want to spend it? And then that comes back to, how do we make decisions? Like, what does that look like? Yeah. And then like along the way too, I think also what emerges too with how you make decisions is what's valuable to us. Like in a lot of that is how we work, how we are spending our time, like the process of it. Because it's one of the things that's come up a lot lately is the difference between process oriented and achievement oriented or goal oriented. And it seems like that we are interested in working in a specific way and less interested in like an exact like goal or output. Like there's some stuff we want to get out, but that seems to be a moving target. Like it evolves as we work in such a way. So there's less of an attachment to, we want to have a corporation that's making X amount of money, like it's like really tangible. It's more of, we want to work in such a way, building these types of things, and we want it to be sustainable in both work ethic and the output that's like financially that we can make money doing it.
Okay, let me ask this, and like, let me know if I'm getting too far ahead, but that all makes sense, and I'm 100% with you. So, like, going back to like kind of like the structure you're describing, Dave. We have this cool technology of R-log and stuff. We have a product we're building on top of it. I assume we'll have some type of. Again, I don't want to project too much, but we'll have bug tracking. Do you guys do that? Issue tracking?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, we do, but we don't have so.
I don't care what tool, just the idea. It could be a spreadsheet, it could be Jira.
Yes.
I don't care. Just the idea that like, oh, I have a problem, right? What track it?
We bug track.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, and this is again, I don't want to get too much into like prescriptive or like, but like, I'm building a product in this organization, and I have an issue, and something doesn't work. Does it get filed to the product? Is a bug filed to the product, and is that a bug filed to the technology? Because that change could help other products. Like this is like, I don't want to make it too concrete. I'm trying to like.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So this is org stuff, and like how like we structure our time together is how I see this. Like so this is like the water cooler thing. Like where do you have opportunities that people can like sort of run into each other? We have to design them, especially if it's virtual, so that you can get the cross like pollination kind of thing. And what that looks like if there's a big bug, like people, and it's relevant to a lot of different products. I mean, it might be like a tech call that's like, hey, I discovered this thing about, it's more like, this feels like materiality. Like the blockchain is doing this weird thing when I do this. A bunch of the people that like the technologists, like the engineer types are going to be like, oh, that's interesting. Let's get together to talk about that. And, or maybe we have a time every week that we do that, or every 2 weeks. I don't know. Like,
I mean, is that what you were asking, Jordan? Like
I mean, I was trying to get into like, I don't want to, like, again, I don't want to be prescriptive, but how do we atomize tasks? I think that's where you kind of start off, right? Like we're all going to have tasks, and like Kristen's saying, like there's going to be a bunch of tasks that are going to be distributed across technology, across products, or across other stuff. How do we prioritize and like, distribute or allocate time accordingly? And so I'm just defaulting to like how we did process, and like I'm trying to like think about what are the atomized pieces of work that we're passing around, but at the same time, it's like, is that the right way to think about it? Maybe it's not. Like, I don't want to, again, it feels prescriptive, and I didn't want to do that too much.
It's a methodology, and so
I think Tony was going to say something. Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, like I think this is kind of in line with what Jordan's question is. So, like for example, we're designing a sort of MVP for, let's just say, like for the Rift, and we know X, Y, and Z need to get built out, and maybe we lay that out and like put it on a board somewhere. How do we go about like assigning that? Or is it like, does once a week and everyone look across like all the projects, and they're like, okay, I want to do this, that, or the other? Or is it like, okay, this week we're doing just Rift stuff or whatever, and everyone tries to get through that? It's like trying to figure out how do we focus the time?
I think that's a good point, but I also think it'd probably be different at different times, though, right? Like there'll probably be periods where we're just like maintenance work, and then sometimes like let's all go whole hog on Rift and just blast through this. I don't know. It's good because also like I also don't want anything so rigid where it's like we're checking boxes instead of like changing to like better stuff. But I'm sure you guys are way ahead of that. Not worried about that with this group.
I think this does emerge as well. So we can start at this point in time, and maybe we just are like, all right, what's the priority now? How do we decide that right now? And then we're just like, okay, so that's how we're doing. We'll document our process. And I think part of this is time boxing things too. Like we're not doing this forever. Like, I don't know. There's been some, not allergy to deadlines, but not wanting to force things. So, but having some constraints on time, I think, for like how long we're going to be doing something is smart.
Yeah, I need that. I need that personally. And one thing that worked, and I think there's downsides to it. In the process I was in my last job, I don't want to put out there as something as a foil. There's downsides to this too, and I want to be upfront about that. But basically, it was a huge org. So I mean, this is totally different. But what worked about it was everyone just followed bugs, no matter what they were. If they were feature requests, they were like just misalignments or critical crashers from like graphic drivers. And then basically they had every day, but I only did the Mondays, where they'd go through the entire pile of them and then just be like, these are the important ones, prioritize, these are the P2s. And then at the end of the week on Friday, which ones got done? And then you just go through it again on Mondays. It becomes an absolute factory and everyone just gets locked in. Like it is absolutely creativity crushing, but it was really good for managing backlog and keeping track of like tasks. So I put it out there in that I like there's a part of me that's like feels a lot of comfort in like there's just a single pile of all issues, and there's like either a standing meeting where it's like we pick the ones that matter. That feels good, but it so quickly turns into just like, all right, I got these bugs for the week. What's the minimum did you get them done? Like it can be
so.
Thank you.
What is the maturity of the like product that this is being? Is this
that's right?
You know, yeah.
This is the right question because it's perfect for maintenance. It's perfect for something that's a fall that's rolling. It's bad for kicking off. But the good part, the good aspects, which I want to bring up, is a single list of all desired features that you reprioritize on a weekly or like tasks that you reprioritize in some interval, because as you're exploring, you're generating new tasks and you need to go deprioritize other tasks too. Like saying no is really important. And that's one thing I learned. It's easy to say we need to do all this, but you also need to say like, we're not doing this till next year.
So what I'm hearing here is like, we have been very innovation heavy, like in our processes, which is a lot of like, don't really know what we're doing, have a felt sense that something is possible to do, and then develop like a project or somebody goes off and fools with something and then like crystallizes it into something that and then on the product design side of things, I'm like, okay, so the tech works like this and like it needs an interface with people. And so it's very prototypey, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we are cobbling together an interface to get it into reality and then seeing how reality responds to this. Then there is a necessity to, once that pattern is established, right? And there is value, and there's probably a few iterations in there potentially necessary, especially for like sort of end user or player focused, that's where I'm mostly comfortable. Then it's like, all right, we need to tighten this thing and then start to support it and maintain it. And it goes into a model. We have been less great at that. Like for instance, Exquisite Land was fueled by an intense curiosity and willingness to play in a space where we didn't know what we were doing and we didn't know how each other worked, and like it was a very fun, like exciting process. But then once it is an extremely draining process too, because it is based on like
you're exploring a continent with no map, with no map. You're
totally.
No, I totally. But it's fun. But it's scary.
I love that area mostly, right? But also it's exhausting. So that is very hard to offer to market. Like you have to become like an extremely high end like R&D lab to be able to do this, and then you usually have to come in there's a big mess with this. And so and
I also want to say like the decision to how you atomize is important too, because a task could be explore and tell us what you think is cool. Like the tasks don't have to be fix this JSON, deliver an icon. It can be explore and have an idea of what you want to build. But like, you know what I mean? Like it's there to like, this is something is like, I had a team of like, 6 people. And so having them have a queue of what to focus on that had like check-ins is basically what it was good for. So I think you're right. Like you don't want to inject this in the exploration phase, but I could see stuff like we're exploring this. Maybe we should write something to track implementing a feature that we think is interesting for later on. Like that's the value I like. And digging through backlogs sounds gross, but it's really inspiring actually. And another thing I like is getting out of my head, I can go back to the current problem. If I don't put it on a piece of paper or in a spreadsheet, it's going to just hover behind me. And so part of it is just personal catharsis. The other part is, it is nice going back to a backlog and being like, oh shit, look at this great feature that could work better with this one. It's just a way to look at, oh, sorry, go for it.
Just what I'm hearing is at a top level structure from the org is that like you like the process of moving these things into like a system that like is maintainable, is like it's gardening, right? And the style of gardening, right?
Yeah.
Like, because we're you know, I prefer the typically, and I think CJ, maybe you're in this boat a little bit, like going into the like unexplored territory, finding some pattern, bringing it back. You know, I'm further down the stack towards maintenance from there, but there are sensibilities and tendencies of work that, like, the ideal scenario here is that we are producing a culture that allows for innovation across those different types, right? So if we were to take the highly structured, you know, maintenance type model and try to place it on the innovation stuff, then, you know, so we're trying to figure out a conversational path between all of these things. With the overarching structure of the thing in service of playing within the problem space. So like, So
I just took the one option of atomizing through tasks, and those are defined by us, whatever, and then weighted by us too, or individually. Kristen started off with time. So if the unit is not tasked, and it's like when we explore another unit like time, like Kristen was saying earlier, that would have to be somehow like do you annotate? So like would it be annotated or something? Like if I needed something, like I'm working on something, I'm like, dude, I need something new from John. And do I just tell him and let him figure it out and let him know? Like, does he decide on his own when he's going to decide to build it or implement it? Is that discussion just between him and me? Is that discussion between everyone? I don't know, I guess. But time, I'm interested in also discussing like a different unit than tasks. I think tasks is one I threw out there as an option.
Sure.
Other units are interesting too, because you do need a different language for transcending exploration to maintenance. I think Dave made a great point there.
One thing I want to add to that time question is the difference in individual time and group time, and how that like sort of stacks basically. Because I don't think they can be compared one to one. I think there's like different properties to both, and async versus sync, like, but still under the how to think about this through the lens of time.
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot about this in terms of the quality of time spent on the endeavor. So like your relationship to that time. So like if you value like factory time, because there are plenty of people who enjoy the factory nature, right? Or the gardening time or the innovation time. Each of those has a different flavor. And like, what is the amount of like your energy that you wish to spend within that kind of thing? This is like a lot of trial and error, but like it's a lot more about the subjective relationship to the time spent within like the group and individually. So that's what I'm hearing in John. So like if a task-based system, but we also need to coordinate across the whole, right? So I'm sort of out past my tether on the specifics here. Like Kristen, you probably have a better sense. I don't know.
I think we should work a problem. Like we should what's a priority? Because otherwise it's too abstract for me. Because we could use CJ, go ahead. You might have a similar thought.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like I'm getting very lost in like all of the methodology stuff here.
Sure.
Like to me, it's like we're talking around something that like we don't even know like what we're doing. So it's hard. Like there's like infinite methodologies because it's like
we can use any of them.
It's like applicable to everything. And I think like maybe what I'm feeling the most is like, I guess, what is the why are we working together as a group, and like what are we bringing forward, or like what are the ideas that we're trying to move forward as a group, and like what how does that like show up in our methodology? Is like what is inspiring us? Why are we doing this together? Like what are the things that we're building what unites all of those things with a common like framework and idea, like almost ideology in some way.
Yeah.
And like kind of starting there. And I think I don't know, this is where it like starts to get a little like tough for me, and to just like kind of be like blunt with it, is like the things that inspire me most about like this group and the conversations that we have is around the relationality, specifically like Prompty and Rlog are always the things that like by the end of the call I am like so excited about, and I'm always wanting to work on them, and like those ideas to me are very inspiring. And like for me, that's the why of like being here. I think a lot of it at least has to do with like that relationality and exploring like what does that mean in terms of like a crypto native world.
Yep. Yeah. So what we have from, I don't know, looking at, because we did a Prompty, John, Dave, CJ, and I, because we've been working together for the longest period of time. So we just did kind of a reflection, and I linked up our responses to that if you guys are interested, and then did a couple folds of that information. And it seems like we're sort of in this communications based social technology R&D, like is sort of the overarching like arena. And then within that, it's building, maintaining, and sharing works of infrastructure, product, and experience. So it's kind of everything. It can be anything. So we run into that again. We can be whatever we want sort of business, but the core of it, I think, is it's helping people better connect. And we're doing that by creating information systems based on contextual relational networks. And then that leads to like it's Web3 blockchain focused. So that's sort of how we like packaged it based on what we've been doing. So yeah, does that resonate?
For me, it resonates a lot. And I think actually that helps to inform, like even you just saying that, at least to me, informs like how things are done. A lot of it is like more relational in its nature, is like, if you have a question, just go like ask the person the question. And like from that conversation, whether that needs to be bubbled up to other people, hopefully is like discussed as well. Like, oh, is this something that like is important for others? I think like that's just part of the relationship, is like trying to be transparent with each other, and but also not divulging like information that's unnecessary for everyone. At least like that was something that was always frustrating for me in work environments previously, is like just information overload. And like I don't need to be here in this meeting. There's 20 people in this meeting, only 2 people need to have this conversation, and this could be sent over an email at the end of the day. So I think like that a lot of that comes down to like the relationality, and like trying to understand the relationality of like each other essentially. And like if we are working in that way and building things in that way, hopefully like we start getting better at building those relationships.
And then that comes back to the shipping your org structure thing. How we work informs what we make, because everything that we've been doing has been pretty, like CJ saying, relational. Like we've made things up as we go. So the challenge here is, like, what does it look like to formalize that? What does it look like to formalize something that is relational, which means that by definition, it's based on context and based on like what the ingredients are. So how do we create containers for those things to happen? So there's some structure, but not too much. And like, what it looks like based on the project and who's involved, it's going to be different. I think we'll start to find that there's certain processes or methodologies that lend itself better in certain contexts than others, but we don't know that yet.
I think like on that too, like the meta communication about like what works for us as individuals like helps to translate between systems, because like if a task oriented system works well for Jordan, that that's wonderful, and like I think like that's something I can digest as well, but I might want to read that in like a slightly different format. But like that comes back to the Rlog thing, is like the information is in the system, and I can choose to look at it like however like makes sense to me in a way that like hopefully like feels like more in tune with like how I natively want to work. And really it's just like a language translation thing between all of us, as opposed to like, you know, like I guess like shoving a language on someone. Because I think that's part of the thing that feels like a job a lot of the times, is like when a structure is like
It
kind of
has to
like
be like
placed
this.
upon
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. No,
But like
you said that beautifully,
being
man.
like a little, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I think just like the more amorphous thing, because like I think tasks are really important, because like it does help track and all of those, and like it really helps to like organize that.
But I hate them
But
too.
like, yeah, right. So
yeah, no,
it's
no.
like how do we make the relationship with tasks like better for everyone? Essentially,
and again, it might
it's
not
like
be tasks.
for the,
time,
from
but yeah,
sure. What, you know, like in whatever form it takes. But just trying to make the relationship smoother between everyone and not so monotonous maybe, and like keeping that like fun, or at the very least not like boring, hopefully. I guess is the idea. Sorry if I'm just kind of rambling a little bit.
No,
like,
that's
kind of where I'm at.
I thought that, no, I appreciate that, because I think one thing you're like, that's a perfect response to like where I was kind of coming from. It's like what I hated about the system I was part of. It's like everything has the same container, right? And so it's like someone gets a bug that's like write a new audio playback engine, and I get a bug that's changed the color of this icon, and it's like that's fine. But at the same time, it's like again, I don't think like it's easier for me to get a list of like just like tasks than just have an entire object. It's like, what's the OS? You know what I mean? Like, so I like the way you're framing it. It's like people should like how you ingest whatever this is should be reformed to like how you. Oh, that's really inspiring. Now I'm rambling. Thanks. But
yeah, well, and I think hopefully something like that actually maybe helps, because I do see the like R&D type arm as well as like the more corporate, or maybe like corporate's not the right like structure or word, but the more like product oriented, I guess, is the thing, is like R&D and product. And I've been reading a lot about like Xerox PARC, and basically like the big main disagreement between the two arms was like they just saw the future very differently, and like why they existed was very differently. It's like the R&D is like, we're looking 15 years into the future, and the product arm is like, we're building laser printers. Right. It's like we're here to like just churn out profit effectively, at least from like their arm. And like I think you know, our approach is slightly different, but like if we can align from like mission statement or values or like whatever that looks like, then that keeps both arms like more or less in sync, and you can still communicate across them cleanly without like too much tension. And I think that
totally agree.
Yeah. How do you merge values? Like, what is that exercise? I've gone through this so many times, and it always feels so like stilted or like mission statement. So like finding, like I do think working some kind of problem and being aware of like what's important, because like one way of defining values that I was recently looking into is what is meaningful for you as an individual, like what feels good to you. So there's probably some reflective processes that we can sort of build into our work in these early stages, like maybe even after this session, like what about what we just did felt good? Like what was like satisfying to you as an individual, and we bring it to like share, and then people can like look at, oh, okay, interesting. Like how are people feeling about, and like, and the why, like why is that valuable to you?
I was actually literally messaging Kristen about this, like values. It's like, to me, it's like, I like when values stick, because, or you can get them in a way where it's like, I was telling her, if you are alone, have no one help you make a decision, what do you use, right? What is the trade-off what are you gonna use to weigh that trade-off? And that's where the value shows up, right? So it's like, on my team, it's like quality, be late, but make it good, right? So it's like some kind of like it's a trade-off. It says, in this situation, choose this. Is it be more playful than serious, or, you know, think longer than shorter or something, right? It could be some kind of like a contrast to help like guide like how you, I don't know. But I love that question too. It's so hard, but I love it.
I think that bubbling that up, and we have like a sort of, something at the organizational level that sort of helps guide decisions, like sort of prioritizing movement of the whole org, right? And like because there are a bunch of sub projects and people are working on lots of things, but we have limited resources, so we need some focusing methodology there. And then there are the sub teams effectively that are going to work in the styles that are suitable to the group, right? Like this is the ideal scenario, is that like there is some amount of adaptable the pattern
maybe that's
of
some
behavior.
value.
Yeah, so like you retain like local agency, and like some within a constraint system that is based on potentially the style of the media that we're communicating in is going to dictate a lot of this. So like if RLog and the componentry of RLog are how we are thinking together and how we are tracking what we're thinking on and how we're cohering, and then the practices that we're engaging in with using that's what we can see in the world. And that's how the rhythm of development happens. But like there's a lot of different sort of patterning possible within that kind of thing. So is there a meta principle or whatever that you can check in on? Like, that I don't know. Like I think so. But we value adaptability, and because adaptability gives you fun, this kind of thing. But yeah, go ahead.
I think adaptability, contextuality, if that's a word, localized agency, like those they're broad, but we can check ourselves. Like, are we making decisions from a place right now that's not based on what is happening, like this conversation right now? Like, because I mean, we do this all the time. You bring things from the outside, you're trying to force it in because I don't know, you get stuck on
also
something.
Sets of practices that are like, how are we feeling about this now?
Yeah,
like,
which also just to reflect,
checking in with reality.
Part of our process of working together so far has been meeting ourselves where we're at. This comes up again and again. Like we show up into a space and someone's going through something and we have to make room for it. So like you can talk about like what's happening, like what's coming up. And then being able to call each other out too. Like it feels like you're off somewhere, like, or that, and this was my allusion to why we have the social calls, so you can kind of get the background, like, oh, someone just went through a breakup. Oh, someone's doing a lot of acid because they're going through some personal growth thing. Or they just like, I don't know, they're like, I'm feeling it right now, or whatever it is.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
So in this sense, the things that we are shipping, and it is very much it is coming from a relational place, which is like, okay, so the constituent parts of the organization are people. They're not human resources, right? There is a very distinct thing there.
Yeah. Great point.
Yeah. So the bounds of what is possible within like a relational system, like it is a lot more organic. It is a lot more, it requires more, it requires a higher relational bandwidth, which means that like we are orienting our sort of our tooling towards that kind of thing, so that we can make decisions within that context. So in a practical case, like we're pushing towards, like Exquisite Land is the one that I have warmed up the most. Like, okay, so we have a cadence of work. We basically agree to a minimum of an hour a week or whatever of like synchronous work. And so within, or 2 hours or whatever it is, like, and we come together and we see what we can do within that 2 hours, right? And then that's what we can dedicate to it. We don't decide ahead of time what we are going to do with that 2 hours. We just know that we will come together, and we trust that wherever anybody's at, there is a good faith environment to determine what is best use of that time, right? Yeah. And then in the next, towards the end of that time, we determine what we're going to do. Are we going to add more time to it? Or what are we going to do in the meantime? Or what are we going to do next time, right? And so this is it is highly sensitive to the contextual environment at the time. But and maybe you start adding other constraint systems, like we would like to get this done before August because there is an event and we want to ship it. And so that starts, all right, we have to clear out this cruft, but it is it is sensing and wayfinding within the environment based on what we understand at the given time, rather than an external unmovable objective that we all need to conform ourselves to getting there. Like, those are sometimes necessary, but the priority is always the health of the organism, right? Like, and across a spectrum of like mental, physical, these kinds of things, because pushing ourselves to the brink where we snap will break the whole thing, because, anyway, so in developing resiliencies and back, all that. Yeah. So this is how I've been kind of thinking about that.
That seems like that, like to me, like you're basically, let me see if I got you right, but like, it sounds great. Like, basically, all right, this week we're doing one full day on Riff, we're doing one full day on our log. Oh, would our log, does that work in this? Is this a product more, or
I think our log and all of that
right now, like, how do we work on that? Like, I don't like
it's our internal tooling. It's the thing that you were talking about, Jordan. You want to work like it's
a
how
platform.
we do this.
It's my
it's a
my
protocol.
I can build shit on top.
Yeah.
Can I just sidebar on that real fast?
Yeah.
Which is like, after I created that like little demo video, like I was like, oh, you could productize this, I'm pretty sure. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, okay.
Like
1,000,000%.
Like that experience is not something that most people in crypto have had, I think. And I think it probably provides like a good amount of value. And there's like some interesting implications, like, because I basically built like a smart contract wallet, which is really the meat of the whole thing. Like, and that smart contract wallet actually becomes the operating system in some sense. So
is this what you just shared a video about, CJ?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch it.
Yeah.
I need to see this. I don't think I understand it enough to be even talking about it, but I'm very excited.
It's in the Rlog channel, I believe. There's the video.
Relationally.
Yeah, it's like me.
The one that said you think it's so funny.
Yeah, the one that I think is hilarious, because I like personally, like, I was just like off. I was like off my rocker, like so excited. And I just think it's hilarious. Like, I want to annotate it because it's so funny. But anyhow, it's like, I think like that methodology, and like I'm like a little hesitant to share the technical details, only because I'm like, this, like, basically like similar to like what internet camera like setup is, like you could probably do a similar like kind of setup here and make it like really cheap and easy for a lot of people, or whatever foundation, or like I forget whatever app that is that allows like the high end like Jay-Z and people to do whatever. Like it could be like a similar kind of like model and interaction schema, I can imagine, and like even done way simpler and easier potentially, because like the surface area of the thing is just so small.
So this is the philosophy on bringing this thing into the world, right? So like, and this is a, part of the, anyway, so there is the value, right? And these kinds of things, like there is an enormous amount of value in some of these patterns that have not been expressed, but allow for a style of like relational, interpersonal, like coordination, right? And the question here is that like we have a tendency in our group to bubble these kinds of things up. CJ, you're out in front, like doing some of these things, Tony, you're also playing in money pipes and these kinds of things. These things are very valuable, right? So operationalizing those things, like you can do it in the open and like maybe something forms, but like it'll dissolve, it'll fall apart, like it'll come back to, it is a lot of personal work, right? Like, so part of this thing is there an exchange of like logistical and networking and all of these kinds of like support for operationalizing these things, packaging them, getting them out, like documenting them, all of this kind of thing that like is an exchange that like the innovative types want to make with the broader organization. And then like, so this is then taking that into product. so that like you can do the thing like Foundation or Zora or whatever, these kinds of things, with the value that we try to keep the thing open because we want to live in an open. But how do you do that? How do you actually, you know, go about doing this and then keep the people fed that can work on the thing to get it to a level of maturity that has the possibility of spreading? So I don't have a specific answer, but the generalized answer seems to be working in this way on these things with this mindset that like we can bubble up these kinds of philosophical discussions and then orient as a group like towards development. So yeah, anyways, yeah, I keep going broad. I guess I'm just going to stay broad.
No, it's good. No, it's good.
Because yeah, and there it is like, you know, trade-offs up and down the stack, right? Like, you know, like nobody can do these things by themselves, especially if they have like a decent size to them, because if they are highly valuable, like what will happen is if you try to keep it decentralized and sort of everybody is like kind of coming and going or whatever, it will get picked apart. People will come in, somebody with an organizational structure will find the value, they will take that thing and they will operationalize it, right? Yep. And it will become whatever the fuck they want it to be. And so this is the commune thing. This is the like French commune model that came out of like merchants in like the 1500s, where you had a bunch of merchants who had things of value, and the crown or whoever it is like just taking all this, and so they put their sort of mentalities together. This is what guilds came out of this stuff, all of these kinds of things, these patterns of like collaborating across interest to like develop the craft of something and also mediate the distribution with the market. I think we are playing in that territory. I need to do more research on this kind of thing, but yeah, we have a better chance of shipping this kind of thing and having it propagate in a way that is valuable to, I think we have talked a lot about the commons and like creating an information landscape that is better for more people, right? That is not necessarily a commercially walled off garden that like is controlled by, you know, interests that are not necessarily aligned with the whole of people, right? And that is a very broad task, but generally like our ability to nobody owns English, like, you know, like, and so things in that direction, and that's obviously like an enormous one, but nobody owns the language. So some of our comms infrastructure, if we can hold them in common, like if we can move in that direction, but to do that, like there still needs to be local supported effort towards this end. So anyways,
yes.
Yeah, there's a fractal here of what works well for us as individuals and how we want to see information and communicating, like to make the thing. That's what we're trying to ship out to the world, so that you can have communication systems and social networks where you can see information how you want to based on what you think is important, which is like a values aligned communications, like infrastructure. Basically you pick, like it's kind of what it is, which is there's a thing too here where like if there's a discovery, like nurturing that discovery, getting it to market, getting it mature, and then having a like, this is the progressive decentralization thing. Okay, so like some amount of resource has been captured to bring the thing into the world. That is perfectly reasonable. And also protecting it, it is like a child, right? Like if you have an infant and you're like, I found this infant, it's great, throw it out. Like, and then like survive infant. And like, but that there is a necessary like exchange and trade-off of time and resource and all of these things that is necessary to grow this thing into something broader. And so there's a lot of the like hyper sort of idealistic, decentralized dogma that's like everything should be free and open all the time. Okay, it doesn't work. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. So like, how do you get things to a level of resiliency so that they can be more free and open, whatever those work? I mean, definitionally, we need to work on that stuff too. But yeah,
So yeah, anyways, this is sort of my answer to the stuff that CJ you're playing with or whatever. Like, I think that as a group, we have the potential of developing some of these kinds of things because we have been stewarding these ideas already into something that is both valuable and something that can be distributed. I hope. So yeah. And part of it is that we're dog fooding this stuff. This building on these things and using these things are how we get it out the door. So yeah, there's some recursiveness to it, but yeah. Okay, I'm off my pulpit.
Do we have a session where we just like lay out all the stuff that we're like our products and protocols or like the like
Yeah.
I feel like
yeah,
config
I feel like
jam,
that would be helpful.
make a map.
because we need to
Jordan-
see, yeah, and then I think from there then we get into like what do we want to work on and why do we work on this
Yeah.
now, and like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And at some point in here there's the practicality of like who needs money and when, because if we're going to be focusing our like, so that might be a take home like prompty sort of thing at some point, but I don't know if we need to do it right now.
Yeah, I can see doing the landscape, and this came up earlier. I was talking to Jordan, like he's got a few products that are in alignment with what we're talking about that like we
Yep.
need to feed into this sort of shared brain.
I need you.
And I think it like getting this mixed together, getting the overview, and then like, you know, probably putting a cap on, I've put a cap on inventing anything new because it just, there's no more room. So and then there is the short-term like keep alive state, right? Which requires resource. Now, what within this grouping of things has the highest possibility of producing something moving towards like capital coming in so that we can all continue to do this? What does fundraising look like? What does consulting look like? What are our options on that? And that's going to be based on what are our costs, right? Like, and so like we basically need to, if it's like we're devoting time as a membership, then everybody's sort of like, all right, I need this kind of thing to be able to like offer this time, right? Like there is a push pull on this. So then with all of that information, it will naturally, you know, sort of squeeze down into what we can do and when we need to do it, I think. So yeah.
Definitely like the idea of seeing all these things on one spatial map and then having some sort of dimension where it's like, what can these things turn into? And then filling in the gap between those, whether that's technical steps, resource requirements, like social, who else we need, who else we can invite.
Yeah.
But trying to get a lay of the land, like visually, and just sitting in there and like connecting lines to lines, because I think this isn't something that can be expressed in pure text, I think, or maybe even pure speech. Like we need to be able to zoom out a little bit.
It's too big. And like there's too many different things, and they all feel related. Like there feels like there potentially is this like massive like system that we're building, but we can't build it all at once. It won't work.
Yeah, and I have I'm learning to have faith that it will work, and so it's like, you know, the feeling that's all connected, have to sort it out. I'm trying to use that as a signal that it will get sorted out. You know, like I know what you're talking about. I have the same anxiety, so it's like I'm excited. I think I like what John's saying. Like, if just 5 smart people and me sit in a room and prioritize what's the best next thing.
Believe in yourself, Jordan, and that's how you get there.
But I mean it. Like, I think that I like that vision where it's like let's look at everything, get a lay of the land, and then like dedicate days and let the days direct us. Like that feels good, man. That feels really good.
One other thing, this loops back to what Dave was saying earlier about like the synchronous decision-making style that we have, which is like we all show up to a space. I have noticed like almost all the times that we do get into that state, like there's this natural end state where we're like, well, here's what it is now. We're still got all of our context loaded up. I can grab this over the next couple of days and I'll bring that back to the next one. And then somebody else like sees that and they're like, oh, I can grab the other side of that. But like it sort of like naturally expands to the degree that it needs to. And like it is the decision that's made right then and there. So it's like it just feels highly contextual. And so that might be the thing that allows for that of variability and adaptability, because you're kind of like, it just always feels like very natural to be like, oh, we did this thing, now I'm gonna go off and like, and sometimes that plan doesn't go to plan because like life gets crazy. That's okay, but having those decisions be made at that point just feels really good, very like in context.
Yeah, because it's where we are and what the thing's trying to be. And then we have, ideally, if we have a broader view of what we're trying to do, then the local decisions become easier because you can check against that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that also in the thing that you're saying is like, we have these synchronous meetings on a specific thing, like it's the Rift or whatever. And I think that possibly that there is another structure in here that we have like other sort of neutral time that we have set aside and host, like, there is a place where we are all going to work together, but maybe separate, like on solo work or whatever, so that there is like just drop in, and right. So then like the stuff that we decided, it has a higher chance of getting done because we maintain a collective distributed field.
Love it.
And then the thing that relational as a membership is providing is keeping that candle lit. So this is the you know, the thing that we're saying, like, I'll be there. I'll be working on something. It doesn't matter, you know. So these types of time, and then also providing the like, we're just going to hang out and shoot the shit about like Sumerian, you know, dynasties or whatever the hell it is, right? Like there is time to also do that, so that the broader interests of the group can like sort of like our humanness, our individual interests can sort of feed back into that. So this is the field that we're sort of trying to build and develop. If it is something that is nourishing and is valuable in senses beyond the market, we will figure out a way to sustain it because it's worth having. So there, again, this is just another sort of, I think, virtue engine in the thing. There's all that.
We have to
Where that came
landscape. That's what's next.
I'm also not, just to throw it out there, I am not worried at all if I need to go do a bunch of like consulting contract work to keep you guys moving. If you just need to throw me out and just like rent me out, dude, I got no problem. I'm so fast.
We're not pimps, Jordan.
I think
I know
that,
you're
that
not,
there's.
but I'm volunteering. I'm just letting you know.
He's just pimping
Good
himself.
to know.
Yeah.
I think that part of this is it's on the table that like we coordinate and shop that stuff around, right? So that like it's not anybody has to go out and fend for themselves. Like I mean, I've run an agency before. Like we have all of these contacts and people in our lives who like, and within the group, like there's been tons of freelancing, tons of contract. Tony's run things like we can figure out a way to up the margin on that work and also have it feed back into the kinds of things that we're trying to do. Like, which means that those things can be in alignment with the broader like internal purpose. If we can think together on this thing, then nobody has to like be a mercenary. But we can talk about like, are we offering mercenary services? And then what are the terms on those services? And like, all of these kinds of things. I think that needs to be like, probably part of the discussion. Yeah.
Oh, totally. I think just to like expand a little bit on that is like, I think as long as it's in alignment with things like you're saying, then like whatever happens next, like happens next. Because I think if it's driven from values, then everyone hopefully more or less feels like good about it.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is like client outreach.
Not aligned. If we just needed a quick cash grab, I don't even mind.
Strippers.
We're robbing banks.
Assassination.
Too,
yeah, dude, robbing banks and stuff. Look, I'm accepting we can't be idealistic in the first couple months, and I'd like to be the soldier getting the arrows in the back while you guys innovate. And I'm shielding you. You know that mean? Kristen knows what I mean.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart.
I get it.
Look, I just did a contract. It was so easy. And I'm like, this is like. For the stuff I've been doing, this stuff is just like, I can just blast it. And these guys have no idea how to price this shit. Like, Anyway,
Yeah, it's good.
I want to support this as much as possible, and I love the vision. So don't know.
I also like with a group like this having like an emissary model where someone finds something and then they bring it back to the group, and we're like, we can support like who needs to be the person that shows up to that task. So you're not going at it alone either.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you're just like a lone soldier, because that
Yeah,
like,
no. I'd have
that
to
game
complain to you guys. I
sucks.
wouldn't just be on the side of it. I'd be bitching to you guys. Yeah.
We're ready.
you inevitably end up in like a place where you're like, what am I supposed to do with this? And if you can come back to the group and the group's like, that's easy, you just do this. Actually, I'll do it for you. And you're like,
yes.
Yep.
That's the dream.
Like, that's nice.
Amen.
I think with this attitude and Jordan's willingness to put his body on the line,
In
We've got
multiple
some-
I mean,
ways.
look, not for that long. I'm telling you, there's a limit
2
to it.
months.
But I'm 100%. No, I could do it for like 6 months easy, dude.
All right.
How
Wow.
calloused I
Let's
am.
get
You know,
moving.
like, how emotionally calloused I am from like 14 years of my last job.
He's been running, he's drinking creatine, and he's been lifting. So
Just literally training for this. Like,
Yeah.
Literally,
that's what it sounds
I'm
like.
going Spartan mode on this software shit, dude. Like, yeah.
it'll get an Arlog made, and then what?
Yeah.
Then we'll have so much money, we'll be drowning in it, and we'll have that problem. So
And then I can make just stupid tools that only myself and 3 other people use all day long, and I'll be happy.
it's your dream.
Yeah.
He lived happily ever after.
what is it? We were talking about doing like relational residencies, and then we're gonna work our way up to tenure.
That's
So
awesome. I like that.
I need
Cool
something to do
sashes
when
and
I'm
stuff?
old and market unviable. I'm getting there already, so I need a retirement home. So we're raising funds for
Hell yeah.
that.
Okay, this is like a little tangential, but a thought occurred to me. Like maybe this is just like a pattern I've seen myself, but it's kind of like started out building things for like specific other people in a very like transactional way, and then like moved towards like building things for myself in some regard, and like being motivated by myself, and then feel like I'm like now transitioning to trying to build things for everyone. And in a, like I'm sure these things are like cyclical to some extent, but there's like this nice kind of evolution there where it's like I like the third one is kind of just like a combination of the second two, but like way more aligned and fun ideally. But it's only possible if you have the resources and the space to do that. So it's like, how can those transitions happen in more sort of smooth ways?
That's interesting. You're right. You're describing it as a form of luxury almost, but it's
kind of, yeah.
It's like a
very much
productive
like,
luxury too, though. But it also makes people like generate better things. That's interesting. I don't know. Never
like
really
way
thought
more
about
fun.
it like that.
It's like 100% more fun. But
Oh yeah.
like, how
you
do
feel
you get
guilty,
there?
right? You feel guilty getting paid doing it when you're in that zone. No, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Never thought about that like that.
All right, we're a luxury brand.
That should be a good metric. You feel guilty that you're getting paid for doing what you do.
Because you're having so
How
much fun.
guilty do you feel? Very good.
Yeah. I feel so guilty. I'm taking people's money for doing the thing that I love so much.
I love
I mean, there's a place when you find something that people love, and like you package it into a product, and they like are throwing money at you. They're like, I cannot get enough of this.
That's a good place.
And not because they're addicted to it, because it's like unlocking something
Meaningful,
that they wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And so this is the best way to do business. Like, and then
You're
there's
not
also
like pulling money out, like
Yeah.
sort of like people are giving you money, and it's
Everyone's
like positive
aligned.
some relation.
yeah.
Everyone's
And so
aligned.
I mean, it's still a pain in the ass sometimes because there are trade-offs and it's hard, but generally like when you and it's usually because like some alignment in like how the thing is being produced, it like people can sense this, right? This is it wants to be in the world. It is not manufactured need, this kind of thing. Like it has like so ideally we're producing these things. Dippin' Dots.
It's Dippin'
Definitely a need
Dots.
for those. Desperate need.
It doesn't need
Astronauts need
long
ice
time.
cream.
Big time.
everyone.
You're going to be in the cold void. The least you can have is
No one's
small.
been sad. No one's been forced to buy Dippin' Dots. Everyone is
No.
Yeah.
True. All right, we're going to create the Dippin' Dots of communication infrastructure.
I like that.
There's our
There you go.
purpose.
parents won't let their children have it.
It's too good.
Yeah.
All right,
Made out of
so
chemicals.
next we need to map. We're doing cartography.
Fun.
Mm.
So
When do we want to do it?
organizational cartography.
Okay, I love this. What is like? Keep going with the metaphor.
Well, I mean, so we've done a few versions of this before.
We're
like,
good with this,
we did-
actually. This is one of
we
our
get together
specialties.
in Figma or Fig Jam, probably Fig Jam, or what we did. We were using Excalidraw before, like
Yeah, I know those.
Oh,
Feel
yeah.
good.
So the canvases, and we're basically like, okay,
It's a free for all.
What
You
is
just
what is the
drop things.
territory that we understand? Just blah 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 blah, and then start moving it around as a group.
Drawing
And
lines.
like a map emerges, and then like we then can use that as an artifact to reference, and we also have it booted up in the collective brain, and so we can start like with different lenses, like, all right, like pass the limited resource lens across this map, like what falls off the map very obviously, right? Or like pass it over super fun or super infrastructure or whatever, and you can start just sort of multi-perspective it, like your way into something that is like cohesive and that we can agree on, and then we make decisions from that place. But yeah, we just sit with an empty canvas and start yarfing out what we know.
Yeah, Jordan, I'm excited to be in there with you. With your like organization ability. I mean, because this is a messy process, but it's nice because it lets anybody who sees structure like basically coalesce it, and then
I'm excited too. I'm gonna make some shit, and I promise I'm not gonna impose it. And I'm just gonna make stuff and just run it by you guys. And I'm gonna trail behind and just start throwing shit in spreadsheets. Actually, I'm gonna switch to Notion because it's so beautiful, and I can use any tool I want. So I'm gonna try that. But I'm excited too. I'm excited about this process. Like it's not formal, but it's good, and it feels like the right balance for. Dave knows I'm obsessed with Dunbar numbers, like how you change between number of people. And so I love that. I feel like we're landing in a place where it's like the right balance, kind of CJ saying, right balance of like interpersonal, but still like without over prescriptive structure and stuff like that. So yeah,
we're also role playing our structures, like we're emerging them.
Yeah.
So like we drop into a problem, and then we wayfind ourselves into some way of seeing the problem better. And so that practice becomes repeatable and potentially even like toolable. So, and if we're also developing RLog and all these kinds of things, there will be like a snap-in that probably, okay, we do this kind of thing when this like kind of, informational landscape appears. And so from that, then how do you practice that? How do you continue to use it? And these kind of, so we are doing a bit of first principling all over the place, so that like the emergent, like practices and rituals and tooling or whatever are based on what we are trying to do as a group, right? And like they're alive as long as we do them. And like, if we codify them, like the big question is over time, like, do we develop enough of this, and can new people who didn't do this come in also? Who knows? For now,
that's
we
building culture.
Yeah, exactly. So
it feels really good. Like I'm also really interested. I think you framed really well. It's like we'll schedule time, everyone to get together, and by the end, like it should be emergent, right? Like what the next things are, whether it's like someone goes off and does something, whether or not like those emergent, like after everyone works and feels like it's settled, right? And then deciding those next steps. I'm actually really curious, like watching how those form, right? There's going to be something really fascinating, like the structure feels the right, like based on my values. And now I'm like really fascinated to see what, like you're saying, what are these patterns that are going to like start like appearing in this? I don't know. I can already kind of feel it out. It's going to be cool.
To start on this, all you need to bring is your brain, what you already know.
Yeah.
And like a willingness to like goof around. And then like, this is it's low tooling, like just show up, and then we sort of emerge it together. But after that, we haven't been able to structuralize it and formalize it too much beyond that, other than like in the group body effectively, like we have conditioned doing this kind of thing. but like spreading it further than this, tooling it up and this kind of thing, there's still green, like there's still an unexplored continent on all of this. So
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Did we link up the video?
Yeah. No,
I pinged everybody
I think
in.
Kristen,
Okay.
yeah.
my tab is loaded.
Okay, when do we want to do things?
Yeah. I had one more thing to throw out there.
Yeah, go ahead.
And that is, I like John just reached out and straight asked me, but actually, I don't know what you're all capable of. Like, I've seen what you guys have made, and it's cool, but it's like, I'm like honestly kind of like I wonder. I mean, I'm maybe it's just a little emerge in the process, but I'm interested in getting to know like kind of like more about like how like the range of stuff I've seen from you guys is pretty wild, and I don't think I've only seen the tip of the iceberg. So it's like I'm interested in trying to understand more about like what stuff I can come to you guys and explore with, or who to like explore stuff with.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do a rough explanation and we can fill in from there. Like, so Kristen can do organizational and pointing out what we're feeling before we know it, or this kind of thing, and writing and capturing large amounts of information and collapsing that into a form that is legible. There's other.
She's a
stuff
space elevator.
Space elevator.
She goes from where you're in the atmosphere and then brings it down to us,
Mhm.
and then like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on a space elevator to Dave, and I'm like, so what Dave's trying to say here?
Yeah, you're like, okay, I see it. Dave. I'll go tell everyone down on Earth, and then we wait down and you land. Like, okay, here you go. Yeah.
Bit of that, and then also like the I guess the rhythm of the organization has been very much centered around like her time signature. Like she's keeping time on that stuff, like bringing in a lot of the social gaming and social technology is coming from her. John overlaps on that kind of stuff as well, like a lot of the information mapping and like sensing the broad like abstractions that we've got, and then sort of artifacting them into surface area.
And John brings the technical aspect into it more because he is a technologist. He knows how to program. I don't. So like John and I get into interesting territory because we can, I don't know. We like
sort of
we mind map together. Yeah.
Interesting. So you guys like on the left-right spectrum almost. And yeah, that makes sense. That's cool.
Yeah,
John's also super social and like very well networked. He will talk to anyone. He's got crazy stories. You're like, how did you get to that party? And like CJ and I had a conversation one time where we're like, what happens when he goes somewhere that he's uncomfortable and he has to leave? So we asked him and he's like, I've never had that before. And we're like, what? He go like crazy stories. So
that's like getting
into a fault. I've tried to calm down on that part a little bit because,
dude, I want to learn.
Go anywhere.
Yeah, same. I do not have.
Yeah,
that.
so he'll go out and chat with all of the people making all of the things on our borders, right? He's a
actually, the last time I went to New York, I was just like, I'm the Buzzard ambassador. I was just like, having a great time. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in the squad, we're doing this stuff, and it just like feels so natural to like get into anything, because also just like approaching somebody else when you can basically say that you're building this thing with a group of people, it's like so much easier and so much more. You're not like trying to wave a flag by yourself, so it's just easier.
Dave, I feel like you're the bridge between John and I, or John and Tony and CJ then, and you and Jordan, because we're getting further back in the stack now. So keep going.
So yeah, then Tony has the capacity for large scale like infrastructural like engineering and also tying it to lore. So yeah, and like sort of
resource management.
Like
moving shit through the system. He's just like,
big
I got the
resource
plumbing.
management. Like my brain does not work like this at all. So it is fascinating to be in the mix on it. And
hell yeah.
So like a lot of moving parts, a lot of like variables, And then we're working on connecting that more to the front end and design side of things, right? Like so in there, but also like being able to map and think out those systems and explain them in compact terms so that they are like
and very calmly
actionable.
too.
Yeah.
He's like unflappable.
Yeah, I was
He's
gonna
just
say,
like-
I don't think you can stir this dude up. I'm gonna get that vibe.
Which is
We can try.
interesting. Yeah, because I don't have this.
No, you
So-
don't, Dave.
No,
I got it from trying to explain very complicated board games to very impatient people over many years.
Yes.
so patience.
That's great.
A virtue he exhibits is patience.
Excellent.
And then CJ has like let's call it a
TJ's a mad
capacity for
scientist.
high octane, like intense, like if there's a live wire that has not been touched yet, he's like, I wonder if you touch this. And so his understanding of the computational stack goes down to sand, and like so basically you're like, I wonder if I combined this grain of sand and this other grain of sand, and then some new pattern emerges that's sitting there, but like you would have to be able to hold a sort of a model of computing down at that level to be able to see how these things connect, and then prototype energy to be able to see it into the world. Like I want to see it.
Well, yeah,
And then
that's exactly how I put it. It's like whenever CJ and I are like working together, you know, there's like if I reach a block, I'm just like, he's just like, oh no, we just go like a level deeper, and
Just
then a level
do
deeper,
that.
and then a level deeper. It's just like fucking like Inception, you know, just like keep falling through the stacks until you're basically on bare metal.
Terrifying.
and then like build something back up from there. It's crazy.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
And then Jordan is a deep technical designer. Like has don't shut up. Like has the ability to who understands how you get things on screens across all of the spectrums of those things, and then knows what to do when you get them on screens from a psychological standpoint to have people engage with them in such a way that they don't know that what happened. They just do the thing, right? So and
That's
then
the
also,
best description I've ever heard of myself. Thank you, Dave. That was so flattering.
we're not done. So also understands how to bring that to a broader group of people who can also do this, and then arrange the organizational structure around those people such that that has a higher likelihood of being successful, and also understands engineering to a degree that he can translate that into the design understanding, and
like
also translate into the organization so that like all of those things. Yeah. Anyways, so I think that's a good map.
Yeah, that's pretty big, Dave. Thank you.
Dave's good at holding complexity, like large scale complexity, and articulating it in ways like you just did that you're just like, what? That's both funny,
Dave's a
enjoyable,
cosmonaut.
and like you're like learning something and it just makes sense. And you're just like, how? He's just like, I don't know, it's easy.
Dave's a cosmonaut, and also Dave is one of like 10 designers that everyone can see their work and know who did it. And Apple would check on him every year. Is Dave ready for? Nope. Dave, every year they come by. Do you think Dave would be? Nope. Like first a few times, Dave's like, I'm not even interested in the HID stuff. And he's like, nah. And then they just kept checking with me every other year or so. And I don't think Dave does enough design, to be honest.
This is design now.
I know, but like your graphic design skills, man. I don't know.
I make mid journeys. I'm a mid journey artist. It's good. So this is and then there are some tendrils out into other people who are coming and going and passing through here. And like, I think all of us are decent at translating and explaining, which makes for a very good organizational API, because like we like to explain how things work and like how they might plug into, so this kind of thing. So we share that in common. So yes. Okay.
It's a pleasure.
Mm-hmm. What are we mapping?
Monday.
Monday's good.
Works for me.
Yeah, Jordan was
I have no
gonna
idea
show
where
off
I'll
some
be.
of his stuff. No.
Yeah, I have one product that, like they've said, like just getting to even like look at Prompty, I'm like, oh my god, this infrastructure. Like I have a UI, and I'm looking for something to put it on. I'm very excited. This feels like right technology.
Is that part of mapping? Did I miss that?
I think it fits in the spectrum. I think it's worth tossing in there.
Yeah, cool.
We can see, and I think it's a good practice to like something that Jordan's been working on, and then to drop. I mean, we've done this with everybody's. We share brains on this, so it would be a good thing to be like, okay, like, and then sort of overlap where we've run into similar things. Like John, I already know there's like some stuff that yeah, it'll bring up a bunch of interesting thought, and it applies to the map. So
yeah, the way I was looking at it is like, you guys have this sick technology, and Prompty is like one of the products rising from it, right? Does that make sense?
and
I think
in
Prompty, I see components that I'm like, oh, just give me 3 of those and then add another one, and now I can get something else. Like that's where I was getting inspired as I got seeing your stuff.
So if that's in conversation with the stuff in our log, it may shift how you're thinking about that some, and it also may shift how we're so
that's exactly right. I now want to see through the lens of how you guys architect, like what it changes in the product or all this. Yeah, 100% that, dude.
It's a good on-ramp to the conversation, so to get into something more technical. But yeah, Monday works for me.
Cool. I'm very excited.
CJ, when are you on the road?
Yeah,
you said you don't know where you'll be.
I'm probably gonna leave Sunday morning and go up to LA and sleep in LA, and then I don't know what's next.
Cool.
Probably be in Big Sur next or something, or Santa Barbara. I have no idea.
Nice.
Cool. So should we just schedule whenever, and you'll pop in as you can?
Yeah, I'll basically just try to like be in a coffee shop, and if not, then hopefully on the road with service.
Cool.
But more or less like in a coffee shop.
Spinning around.
Give us a snap lens camera.
Okay.
You just you need to get one of those snap drones and just have it fly inside the Tesla as you're driving.
Perfect. Very cool. Very cool.
I wish I could use the camera built into it, like up there, that like actually watches me while I drive. That would be great.
That'd be really good.
That actually, I'm kind of surprised they don't do that in hindsight now. Actually.
Yep.
It's also kind
jailbreak your Tesla.
Terrifying.
Okay, sorry, Kristen. What were you saying?
What time Monday? Anything works?
I'm open all day.
Works.
4 a.m.
Earlier, later. What do people think? What?
Earlier seems better.
Become functional around
brains.
Noon Mountain Time.
Noon Mountain.
1 Central, but happy to do earlier too.
1 our time.
Seems
I
fine
mean,
to
we could do as early as, I think, is like 9 a.m. Pacific, 10 Mountain, 11 Central.
I mean, that's fine.
Tony, where are you?
I'm like
Down the block.
300 feet from Kristen and Dave.
Okay, cool. Right on.
And vice versa.
What's your proximity from Kristen and Dave?
Yeah.
Let's try earlier because I'm curious. We haven't really done morning in a while. And we'll figure out calendaring at some point.
Calendaring.
It's like a burr in my boot currently. It's a snake in my boot.
Yeah.
I despise calendars. I despise them.
We need to figure out something that we can live with.
Yeah, I love it.
Until we reinvent time.
Oh, now I'm getting really excited for Monday. I'm getting really excited for Monday.
Another example of an open protocol. Time that everyone has adapted.
That's true.
See, Kodak reinvented it. We can too. Anyhow, cool. This is very fun.
Yeah, this is great.
Super inspiring, man. Thank you.
think we did good work here. So
Yeah.
Sweet.
everybody keep
Excited
doing
to
it.
map.
Till
Yeah.
Q3.
Till Q3.
Alrighty. Enjoy the weekends.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Everyone.
Have a good one.
Drive safe, Jordan.
Will do.